IMAA client partner. And we've also got a special guest today. We're being joined by Rob Maxwell, the head of investment for the Speed Agency. So you can hear from him and not just have to take our word on the impact of the platform. The plan across the next 35 minutes, we're going to split it up like this. I will take you through what I'm sure is a familiar consumer platform for most of you, but how Uber has become an incredible brand opportunity, and how you can use our first-party data to both build audiences as well as insights for the brands that you're working across. Max is going to take you across some of our ad formats, particularly our most highly attentive formats. And then you're going to hear from Rob on some of the work that the Speed Agency has done across their client set with Uber advertising and some of the results that they've driven. It sounds like it's going to be a prize galore today. Sounds like Sam's giving away prizes, but we're going to give you away some too. It wouldn't be a media presentation without some freebies. So please keep your eyes peeled. We'll have a QR code at the end that will let you enter the draw for one of 5 $50 Uber or Uber Eats vouchers. So if you have any questions on the way through, please pop them in the chat, and we will endeavour to be able to answer all of them at the end. But any that we don't get to, we will follow up by email. So let's dive in. These days you can go anywhere and get just about anything with the click of a button, thanks to Uber. And a lot of people across Australia and New Zealand certainly do that. 9.5 million Aussies and Kiwis, in fact, come to Uber and Uber Eats approximately 5 times a month on average. And those 5 times a month that they're coming to the platform are across a range of everyday routines, such as taking the Uber, an Uber to work, like I did this morning, as well as more memorable moments, such as, things like sending a gift to your loved ones when they've just gotten engaged, or maybe taking an Uber ride to the international airport for your big end of year trip. And those moments and the reason for people to come to the platform are ever expanding. People are surprised to hear that, a business like Uber that's been around for more than a decade is still innovating, but we are. Around 18 months ago, Uber Eats, which was originally the platform, your go-to place to come and get your, Friday night takeout, started to expand to become the platform to get almost anything, and expanded into grocery and alcohol retailing. So you can now come to the platform and get groceries from all of the major brands, Woolies, Coles, Harris Farm, delivered super fast in under an hour. And most recently, in fact, just this weekend, you can also now take care of your furry friend. So if you've forgotten, their treats or dinner, you can now get all your goodies from Pet Barn delivered in under an hour as well. Uber Rides is also innovating new products like Uber Reserve, and you can also actually book your hire car through Uber now. And we also launched a membership program called Uber One, and that's done a huge job for our platform in terms of increasing frequency across both of our apps. And importantly, unlike maybe some other media publishers' membership programs, our Uber One members are not exempt from ads, which is great news for all of us. But each of those, reasons to come to the platform, what's really special is that they are all spending moments and spending occasions. And so as a result, across Uber and Uber Eats, Uber Rides actually controls the largest digital wallet in the world. And so as a platform, whilst Uber connects people to products and places, Uber Ads is able to connect your brand to people right in the midst of their purchase journey. So whether that purchase journey be in the real world, and we can connect your brand to people in those moments as they're out and about, or whether they're making purchases online, we can connect your brand to those purchase moments through Uber Eats. And so as an ads business, really we're building almost 3 distinct propositions, but they are all highly attentive, and each of them are able to connect your brands with people in those spending moments. So the first is really about driving attention as people are out and about, as they are on their way to the shops, to the airport, home from work, and we can connect your brand with customers in those out and about moments through Uber rides. The second is our online food delivery business. And this is really about being able to connect with people in those lean back moments, those dual screening moments as they're about to order their takeaway. And then the third, which is our most rapidly growing area, is about being able to connect with customers as they are ordering groceries and alcohol. So this is about connecting with people as they're about to cook a meal for their family or host their friends, pick up that thing that they've forgotten, or maybe satisfy their late night cravings. And all of those moments in Australia are total to us being able to reach 9.5 million Aussies and Kiwis. Now that 9.5 million is deduplicated across both of the apps, and that is a quarterly figure. Everyone who comes to the platform is 18 plus, they are authenticated and they are logged in. We have a single unified ID, which runs across both Uber and Uber Eats. So that means that regardless of which of the platforms that you're advertising on, you're able to use the really rich insights from both sets of signals to ensure that you're reaching a really relevant customer. And finally, when people are coming to the platform, they're spending more than 20 minutes with us. So 20 minutes from the time they order their Uber until they get out at the other end, or more than 20 minutes from the moment they are looking for that food delivery until it arrives. And Max is going to take you through how you get to capitalize on that 20 minutes when we get to the ad formats. But it's not just about the huge reach or the amount of time that people are spending with the platform. It's about how they feel when they're coming to Uber. And it's fairly similar, the emotional resonance across both Uber Eats and Uber Rides. It's all positive. The top 5 ways that people feel when they come to the platform are accomplished, efficient, productive, safe, and successful. And so that really positive emotional feeling makes them prime for ad messaging. And that positive emotional resonance, in conjunction with the really strong brand affinity that Uber has built over a decade, that leads to, like we said, greater brand receptivity. And that trust, that trust that when you see in the app that the Uber is 4 minutes away, and in fact that the Uber is definitely 4 minutes away, that trust is far greater than any of our competitors across either the rideshare or the food delivery ecosystem. And like I said, don't just take our word for it, but we know that positive emotional connection and the trust in the platform drives greater ad recall. And it drives great ad recall across all categories and all generations, but really none stronger than against the Gen Z and millennials. We know that this is a particularly hard audience to reach and even harder to get the attention of. So to be able to generate 67% ad recall amongst Gen Zs, we think is a pretty compelling and unique proposition. So onto the insights and targeting now. As I said, when everyone comes to the platform, they are logged in and authenticated, and they're in these spending moments. 100% of our ads are on network, and we've designed all of the ads to be in view. The ads are in an incredibly clutter-free environment. In most cases, your brand is the only ad on the surface, which really enhances results for brands. And we've built an incredibly rich and unique first-party data offering, which means that you don't have to be concerned about cookies or signal deprecation when you're working with Uber ads. And as I said before, that 9.5 million Aussies that come to the platform, they are young, but they are also unique. And almost 70% of our users cannot be found on other platforms across either Rides or Eats. And not only are they young and engaged, but they're also an even gender split. So we're a great environment to be able to reach both men and women across the platform. And whilst we've got a really strong heritage in Gen Z and millennials, they're not all young, gaming users, sitting in their parents' basement. 1 in 2 of our audience are also parents, so they're highly affluent as well. Now, this slide is quite busy, I know, but this is a really important one to get your head around. This is how the targeting across our platform works. So think of it in two ways. One, you can target people live in the moment as they are going to these places or as they are purchasing any of these items. But you can also target people historically based on where it is that they've been and what it is that they've purchased. So I'll just talk you through a couple of examples here. So you're able to target people live in the moment based on where they're going, and you can do that based on an exact place name. So you can target someone who's going to a particular store or a particular shopping centre. Or you can target people live in the moment based on the fact that they're going to a category of places. So people who are going to bars or people who are going to airports. Or you can choose to use our strong location signals to target based on postcodes or neighbourhoods. And events are a really large part of our business. So you can target people who are live on their way to the Taylor Swift or Dua Lipa concerts, as well as people who might be going to the NRL or AFL Grand Final. And you can do each of those based on where people have travelled to historically. So you can target people who have been to NRL games or people who have frequently gone to shopping centres. You can also target people based on their subscription. So if they're riding on an Uber for Business account, for example, and what type of ride they consistently choose to take. So is someone choosing Uber Pet, for instance, then you might understand that they're likely to be a pet owner, or are they consistently choosing Uber Premium and traveling to a high socioeconomic location regularly. And you can do each of those things, like I said, across their purchase behaviours as well. So you can target at an item level. You can understand if someone's buying a sugar-free Red Bull, but you can also target at a category level, think across alcohol, Mexican food, soft drinks, or any of our shopper demographics. We've also got some special new targeting types, which I think one in particular I think is pretty special, our tourist targeting. We understand if somebody is travelling within their home city, state or country, and likewise if someone is outside of their home region. So we can distinguish, let's say Max is at the Sydney airport, we understand that Max is a local and can serve a message accordingly. And likewise, if I'm in Melbourne, we understand that I am not a local from Melbourne and can serve a different message. Now, each of these data points and signals, like I said, can be used for targeting, but they can also be used to generate insights. And I roughly bucket this into two ways. You can use signals from locations in order to build a persona. And this is an example here of how we bring together Uber and Uber Eats data for someone who visits luxury shopping locations, and how we can build out and help give you a greater understanding of what these luxury shoppers do in their day-to-day. Where do they go? Well, they tend to frequently travel to high-end hotels like the Hyatt and the QT, but they also visit upscale fast food chains, so they're more likely to be ordering burritos and burrito bowls rather than your QSRs. You can also build insights off of events. So I mentioned before about the fact that you can target, rugby league fans across the platform. This is a look at how we build out a rugby league persona. So we understand that people who visit rugby league games are more likely to take an Uber X or an Uber Pet ride, and they peak between 5 and 7 p.m. And they're more likely to go to ride categories such as casinos and bars and frequent places in Western Sydney, as an example. All right, I'm going to now hand it over to Max to take you through some of our ad services.
Thanks, Shalise. Thanks everyone for jumping on the call, and look forward to meeting everyone that I haven't yet. It's always great to look at those targeting capabilities, the intelligence that we have from a targeting standpoint, but how do we put it to use and how to really capture that attention? I'm sure there's a number of you on the call, I'd hope, that have seen a similar slide in a meeting, a fireside chat, or a conference where we're talking about the average consumer and how much they're exposed to messaging in a single day. But for us at Uber Ads, it's really important to address this and talk about it in a bit more detail. Our good old friends at Amplified Intelligence, they looked into the level of attentive ad views across a study of 1,150 brands. And what they found was 85% of those views sat below the 2.5 seconds attention memory threshold. We've all agreed that is needed to drive mental availability. And why this is really important to us at Uber is the fact that we know we have an audience that are engaged, and they're engaged for longer. So when you look at the average attention time across the digital landscape, and you look at the engagement that we see from an Uber standpoint, there's a significant difference. So when you look at that number of 20 minutes on average time spent with our app, when we look at how that converts to time spent with ads, we're seeing around 100 seconds of ad engagement. Now, that's a huge number, right? That's a significant amount of time for your brand to sit with a consumer. So as a platform, we definitely hold the attention of the consumer, but it's an environment that your brands that you're working with can completely own. Now, I won't take you through the list of the full suite of ad units that we have today, but I just wanted to give you a snapshot of the different formats available to you that take you through anywhere from creating demand and building brands all the way through to taking action on site or with an engagement. But we're going to talk about two formats today, which really give you an understanding of how you can reach consumers in the ride side of the business and then on Uber Eats. So on rides, our ad unit that sits with the consumer as they book an Uber is nicely named Journey Ads. The Journey Ad sits with the consumer across their experience when they're booking that Uber trip, from being connected to a driver to waiting for that driver to pick them up and then ultimately being on trip to their destination. Brands have the opportunity to reach consumers in these different environments, and that can be video creative, similar to the example that you see here from Kia and the Advertising Associates team. They looked at reaching consumers across Melbourne during the Australian Open, a mixture of trips across Melbourne, but also to the actual Rod Laver Arena. Video can be anywhere between 6 to 60 seconds, or you can look at running static creative. So anywhere between 1 to 5 statics in a carousel format can be used across these three phases of the trip. And it's really important to talk about the trip, because that's how we essentially buy this ad unit. You're buying the entire trip of the consumer on a cost per trip model. So what do I mean by that? You are the only brand that a consumer is going to see during that trip. You've got 100% share of voice of that journey. And when we tie that back to the targeting slides that we showed you previously, it's really, really compelling to think about the fact that you're the only brand that someone's going to see in a contextual, relevant setting when it comes to the targeting parameters that we're able to apply to your campaigns. As I mentioned in the previous slide, we see 100 seconds of average time spent, and that's converting to around a 2% click-through rate when we look at our benchmarks to date. What's really exciting to see is when we get the targeting strategy right and we really focus around what's relevant to a brand, those benchmarks can be completely smashed out of the park. And this example that you see here from SwiftX is a great example of that. SwiftX is a crypto exchange for anyone who hasn't heard of them. They wanted to target people in and around Sydney and heading to the International Convention Centre during the crypto conference last year. And the results were phenomenal for us and for the brands. As you can see there, the average CTR that they saw was 4.87%. But when we looked specifically at the trips to and from the conference centre on the days of the conference, the CTR was almost 6%. So that's almost 3x of our benchmarks that we typically see from a click-through rate perspective. And then finally, you can just see there that the time spent with the ad was way higher. And the icing on the cake for us was going to the event on the Saturday with the client and just getting, firsthand hearing the positive feedback that we were getting from everyone at the conference, hearing that they'd started to see the ads on Uber, and it was putting SwiftX top of mind across a really, really important moment for them. In a similar vein, you can reach consumers on the Uber Eats side of the platform with an ad unit called post-checkout ads. Now, for, again, everyone on the call, I'm sure, has used Uber Eats before to order a takeout, alcohol, or maybe now your groceries. But this ad unit sits with you as you wait for that delivery to turn up. And as you can see from the example here from Beauty and the Beast and the Anthem team, this is a perfect environment for your brand to sit with the consumer. As Shalice mentioned, when they're in that more laid back mindset, you might be dual screening on the couch watching Netflix, but video does a significantly it drives significantly strong results in this environment. As we mentioned before in the previous slide, it's 100% share of voice, similar CTR to what we expect from Journey ads. But to my point around video, we are seeing that the average completion rate for 6 seconds is around that 70% mark or slightly higher, which is phenomenal to see that we're able to drive those results whilst people are waiting for their food. So at a surface level, those two units are how you capture the attention of our audience, but we can go a bit further and a bit deeper on that. And playable ads, the example that you see here, really help you deepen engagement with gamified experiences and offers that give something back to the user. So this example from Subway does both. It is an opportunity to play, as you can see in the middle there, an interactive game, which was tied into the Formula One last year. But at the same time, whilst you play this game, you're in the chance to win $10 off your next order. So they're doing two things here, right? They're driving engagement and time spent with the brand through the playable, but they're also giving consumers the opportunity to win. And as you can see on the right-hand side there, the playtime was just over 5 minutes, which is phenomenal. But more importantly, we saw a 57% offer redemption on that code. So really exciting way for a brand like Subway to not only drive engagement, but get redemptions and get people spending with their product. And finally, we won't kind of go through this in more detail, but I think it's not to be ignored that we're driving sales for brands. So we've become the retail media space for the brands that are sold on the platform. And again, going back to a previous slide that Shalice showed, we're continuing to onboard and iterate the brands that are on the platform and the categories that are on the platform. And with this becomes more opportunities for new verticals to play in this space. If there's any brands out there that you're working on from a CPG perspective that would be relevant to more details on this, please do reach out and we can go into more detail. Cool. So from a measurement standpoint, obviously being a new player in the space, we are continuing to build on the partnerships that we have in market across verification, resonance, and reaction. The most recent partnership that we're starting to beta this year is with DV and IAS to really help that verification piece. But as you can see, there's a number of different third parties out there that we're working with, and one that's been with us for the past year or so, Kantar, have been really helping us show brands how brand lift drives significant results. How we're able to drive significant results when it comes to brand lift. Sorry. In this screenshot here, you can see that when we look at the Kantar benchmarks across key metrics through awareness down to favorability and consideration intent, our static creative and our video ad campaigns significantly outperform when it comes to percentage point lift in comparison to their norm. So we know that the awareness and the consideration of your brands and partners is working well on the platform. But it's all well and good me saying that. I think it's probably worthwhile me introducing Rob for the next slide. Rob is the head of investment at Speed Agency. He's been a great partner of ours over the past 6 to 8 months, where we've done a number of campaigns with his team. I wanted to ask Rob to come on today to talk a bit more about his experience working with the team and how he's looked at Uber fitting into his broader channel mix across a number of different clients that he's working across. So with that, Rob, I'd love to pass over to you to talk through this in more detail.
Yeah, thanks very much for having me. Thanks, Max, for the invite. Yeah, look, myself and Max, we met up quite a few months ago, and we'd kind of discussed the various different formats that Uber had at their disposal and how it could worked for a number of the clients that we had. We shared some information with regards to challenges we faced or what we were looking to achieve. And straight away, we knew that there was definitely a place for Uber on a number of our plans for really quite varied clients and quite different objectives. I think the thing that really spoke to me straight away was around the fact that you know exactly who the audience is. It's very deterministic in that regard. That coupled with the fact that you do have this complete lack of clutter and you have that 100% share of voice if it's for the entirety of the journey, whatever. We just thought those are all some really, really strong attributes that we definitely wanted to leverage for our clients. So the one that we've got on screen here is for Carnival. So obviously cruise line, you know, a massive brand globally, massive brand locally here as well, targeting a lot of families. And what we were able to kind of really determine was that through the different data touch points that Uber had, we could really hone in that audience really quite tight. So we were able to look at their purchase behavior across Uber Eats. Were their kids' meals in their order? Were they ordering, you know, stuff for delivery that was maybe baby or young child supplies? And we could also then couple that with their journey behavior. So looking at, are they taking journeys to specific, very family orientated areas? So be that, you know, other entertainment areas, is it to kind of cinemas at certain times of days, but also as well to things like airports and domestic travel locations. So this kind of amalgamation of data points made us feel very, very comfortable with testing Uber and was to great success as well. So we have Uber on our plans really quite frequently as a result of those successful tests.
Thanks, I really appreciate that, and thanks for going into the detail there. Just I guess just a build on question in terms of, you know, how this fits into your channel mix. Could you go a bit deeper on where you see it playing? Is it purely targeting, or do you think that you find it quite easy to fit us into the mix when you're talking to your clients?
Yeah, we do. We have found those conversations to be pretty easy. I think one of the really big strong points of this is the fact that irrespective of the type of client, typically they are an Uber consumer as well. So there's a familiarity there from a consumer standpoint. And then where we look at placing Uber in our kind of channel mix is typically in around kind of an awareness and a conversion sort of layer, because the format is quite unique. It does straddle a couple of those layers, but again, just speaking to kind of that high attention and the share of voice component of it, we definitely leverage it more so from those kind of awareness and consideration standpoints. But when we look at some of the performance metrics that have come through as well, such as the click-through rates that we've seen on a number of different formats, you know, they're really, really strong. Like we've kind of exceeded our expectations on a number of different formats and a number of different points where we could activate with the audience. So it's something that definitely for us sits in the awareness and consideration, but really strong engagement as well.
Awesome. Thanks for that, mate.
Awesome. Thanks, Rob. Okay, it's quiz time. Everybody on the call would like to get out their phones. Please, you can scan the QR code now or take a picture if you would like to share it with some of your friends at the agency who maybe haven't seen this yet, but you know that's only going to decrease your chances. So if you don't share it, that's okay. This should take you through to a quiz page where we've only got 4 questions that you need to win. We will notify winners by the end of this week, but the competition is only open for today. So hopefully you can remember the answers, but if you can't, you've got until today to pepper Max for the correct answers. So the 4 questions which you should find on that form are: how many Aussies 18 plus can you reach each quarter on Uber? How much of the Uber Eats audience can't be reached across other delivery platforms? What's our benchmark for time in view? I think Max said that about 4 or 5 times, so I'm hoping we remember that magic number. And which Uber format beats the Kantar global norms for awareness, consideration, and favorability? So that's the quiz. Please fill in and we will let the lucky winners know by the end of this week. Now, I wasn't able to see if there was any questions coming through in the chat. Jess, are you on the call? Or Sam, can you see? Are there any questions that we need to answer for the team?
Guys, are there any questions? You can put it in the chat, or if you're brave enough, you can yell it out.
Yeah. No, there's a lot of information in there. It's a bit to digest.
And so often there is not questions. Oh, here we go. No, Susan. Oh, there's a few here. Okay.
Hey.
Is there a minimum spend?
Yes, there is. So it was originally a minimum spend that was across the entire the agency world, and we've managed to customize something for the IMAA. So 30K is the minimum spend. With that, there is an incentive for first-time advertisers that I can share after the call, and that gives you access to all the targeting capabilities that we have.
Okay.
Great.
And next question is, do you have to buy direct, or can you do it programmatically?
That's a great question. Yeah, there's a couple of different ways in. Some of those retail media assets that we showed you at the end, I might just go back actually. So these ones, we have a partnership with Criteo. So any of these more performance retail media assets, sponsored items, and as well as sponsored display, they're available through the Criteo programmatic platform, and sponsored listings. We have our own first party platform, which you're able to transact through. In terms of your more standard DSPs, currently the journey ad format is available programmatically via DV360 and the Trade Desk, soon to be Yahoo as well. We're hoping to have the post-checkout ad onboarded by the end of the year, but for the moment it is just the journey ad available programmatically. But all of the assets and all of the, I guess, the more engaging assets like the playable, they're all also available direct.
I would say, of course, we can, look to programmatic in the initial stages, but for initial tests with the platform, we're more than happy to just kind of take you through the managed IO service and make that seamless as possible. But yeah, please do reach out with any questions on that.
And then we've got one here. A lot of clients say that we get engagement and reach, but the brands don't align with that at all. What are the key 3 things you would say to them to remove any fear that they have with the alignment there?
About alignment with the Uber platform.
With Uber and their brand. So they might not be aligned, like there might not be a food or it might be.
Yeah, so very good question. I think where we've seen there's kind of 2 areas of growth we've seen, right? There's that alignment with brands that can be bought on the platform, like you said, and then on the other side where there isn't that alignment, it's more around the alignment of audience, right? So that will be trying to reach that really hard to reach audience, millennial and Gen Zs, which we have and we have the attention of, or aligning your brand with a moment that's relevant to that brand specifically. So let's just take the Australian Open as an example. If you're a sponsor of the Australian Open, we can be the brand that connects your brand to the consumer. We can be the platform, that connects your brand to a consumer as they're on trip to that at that moment. And I think that contextual relevancy of being able to reach people in the moment is what really makes us stand out in terms of being able to align the platform with brands that can't be bought on Uber Eats, if that makes sense.
And I think the second really is just around how unique the platform is from a brand building point of view. There's not too many digital environments that, yes, have strong reach and strong engagement, but also have, the level of attention that our platform has, your ability to storytell and to deliver more complicated message. A more complicated message, we think is really unique, and it's definitely translating through to those Kantar norms that we're seeing, which those Kantar benchmarks are run across all client categories. So yeah, certainly applicable to a really broad range of clients.
Amazing. And it looks like if anyone's got any more questions, we can connect you with the team after this. Firstly, thank you so much, guys, for your time. Welcome to the family. We have got a question for everyone now. We want to encourage everyone to hold on just for 1 second. It will take merely a moment of your time. T, can you just jump in and explain how this is going to work? I think we're going to throw just a simple question up there. We're going to reward everyone with a prize at the end, and we're going to also reward the presenters throughout the year who have the best ones.
Are we staying on?
Yep.
Yeah,
So
just stay on a second.
basically, you would have seen that a chat pop-up has come up on all your screens. If you go into the chat bubble at the top of the taskbar, you'll see that there's a question that's popped up. Could we ask that you guys please complete that? Once we get majority of the votes in, there will be a second question that pops up, and then you're all good to log off.
Fantastic. I'm even going to vote myself.
I'm assuming we don't rate ourselves.
I think that would be cheating.
It can't hurt.
Yeah.
You would have been the first. All right, guys, we've got a massive year ahead. Firstly, thank you for joining us for the first one of our Insights and Innovation series for this year. Super excited to share what's coming up, and can't wait to see as many of you as possible on the 19th. And there's a whole bunch of things, and just watch this space. These sessions are just going to improve and improve throughout the roof as we go through the year. Thank you, everyone. Have a great week, and bring on 2025. Thanks, guys.
Lovely to see you all.
Thanks,
Bye.
Thanks, Uber. Lovely presentation.